So, hi guys, welcome back to Overtime Heroics MMA. We're joined today by Michael Parkin. How you doing?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all good here. You're fresh off a victory on Saturday, a first round KO of, was it Jan Leisnick? Am I saying that right? Leisnick? Yeah, who was a very experienced opponent. That was your second professional fight?
Yeah, second pro.
So how do you feel that fight went? Did it go according to game plan?
Yeah, I watched a few of his earlier fights. I know he was like awkward on the feet, throws like long kicks, and then looks to shoot. So it went exactly like what I thought was going to go. I felt like I've improved my striking loads. So I wanted to show off my striking, but it was one of them things where it was awkward to get off when I was in there. He was just throwing like loads of long kicks. So I just adapted what he done. He shot like early, and I managed to get on top with him and like ground and pound him out. But it is what it is. On to the next one. I felt the most confident I've ever been in there. Like didn't even feel like I was fighting. Like, and our nerves are good, definitely. I was a little bit, but I just felt super chill in there. Like didn't have trained that much now. I was just like dying to be in there.
Because that was your first ever fight during COVID. How did you feel fighting during COVID, and how did you mentally prepare yourself for something that's like so alien to how mixed martial arts should be?
Yeah, so I meant to have I should have had about 6 fights through COVID now, but they've all fell through. The shows getting cancelled or going to lockdowns and that, but no opponents. So I was happy. Like I knew it was going to be a bit different. Like the changing areas were outside. It's obviously a bit different. Like little, obviously gazebo thing. Need crowds, but I didn't really feel a difference, to be honest. Like you definitely hear the crowd when you're warming up. You hear them when you walk out. But once you're in there, I never really hear them much anyway. You sort of like tune into like what your coaches are saying and stuff like that. So it didn't feel like a massive difference. But it was just strange after, like not seeing people in there and like different things. It was just weird. It was weird setup, really.
Do you think sometimes it might help you with no crowd? Because obviously you can hear Andrew very clear in your corner, and you could hear Andrew like very clear at home as well. Like when I was watching it on the stream, that was the one thing you could hear. You could just hear Andrew shouting, which was amazing. Do you feel that helps you? And plus, you can also hear the opposition coach as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's weird when you're fighting because no matter how loud it is, you do catch the stuff. Your brain must tune into your coach. You do hear the odd thing. But yeah, it was much clearer. Like at one point when I had like his wrist wrapped, like I was hitting him, but his arm was like blocking himself. It was like that. And Fisher was like under the armpit, and I like landed a nice shot under the armpit, which I probably wouldn't have done if he wasn't there so clear.
Because see when you were training, did you ever have to adjust what maybe how you were sparring or your? Because the reason I'm asking is I've heard a lot of gyms doing this. Like they try and imitate the walk-in like during COVID. So like they try and walk through the gym with a kind of empty gym, have music and that on. Is that it's like walkout music? Is that the type of thing you done, or did you just roll with the punches?
It's pretty good at TFT. So like every Saturday is like MMA, but if you've got a fight, you've got like a 6-week camp. You do rounds every Saturday, so you get fresh man. So it's sort of like that anyway, because like the gyms are maybe like whoever's training your opponents and Fisher. So like, say if I was doing a round and say I don't know, say if Phil was my opponent for the rounds, Fisher like corners me as if it's a fight, like shouts me as if it's a fight. So it's like it is good, like you do get like a fight experience in it. Yeah. And so that was actually me training Saturdays in the gym's been exactly what the fight was like. Like a few people there, not much noise. Hear your coaches clearly, so it was actually like perfect how we've been training for it. Like it was exactly like the show was.
Because I was actually thinking that there when you were talking. I was like, it must be more like training, like
a sparring session.
Relaxed. Yeah. I think that'll be beneficial for you. So like you mentioned Phil there. What's been the main impacts that are having guys like Phil DeFries? You come up and you train with like Paul Craig quite a bit, and I know you go down to Team Cabin to train with Tom Aspinall. What's it like having these like huge stars as like training partners?
So I first went to TFT. Obviously, Phil was there, so that's probably the first like huge name I trained with. Yeah, it was just different. Like obviously, he's what everybody knows his fights now. His wrestling's unbelievable, and his top game. So like, I benefited training with him because like stuff he was doing, like he was doing to me, like I'd never had done to us before. just like it's pressure on top, like I literally couldn't move. So now I'm getting to the point where like I'll know a few things are coming, starting to defend a few things that he does to us. So I'm definitely improving. Then I've sort of like pinched stuff off his game, so he's got like some nice positions on top, which work good for like sometimes the technique you can show from like a lighter lad perspective, but like we just can't physically do it just for being too big. But so Phil's got loads of nice things that he does. He's like, oh, Mick, try it this way instead. So that was great training with him. He's my main training partner. He's in like every day. So and like he's helped us with all of my fight camps and everything, and I've helped him with all of his. Then with Paul, he always comes down to get his rounds in because I think up Scotland there's one or two big guys, but not many for him. Obviously, you need to like be sparring with different people.
Yeah.
So he come down the day rounds with Phil, and then Phil was like, "Oh, Mick, do you want to do one with him?" So I was like, "Oh, that was like the first like." Cause I knew Phil from like the local scene and that, so I knew him. So it wasn't as awkward to train with him. But then with Paul, it was probably the first big name. So when I first was in, I was like, "Oh," like you used to see them on the telly and that, so it's a bit weird. And then so I did a round with Paul, and like he's a great guy, and obviously like his grappling's amazing. And then so a few times he like messages saying, "Oh, do you fancy coming up Scotland, help us with my camps?" So I go up like maybe 3 or 4 days to help him. I think I've helped him with like 2 of his camps now, and like that's great because he's a different side of like a bigger lad. So obviously he's a mint on his back, he's got amazing triangles, so stuff that like me and Phil would probably never do, he does to us. So it's like amazing to get that in because then I'm getting like good sparring with people who are good on the bottom, then people who are good on the top. So I've like again loads of things. Like I said, when I first went down, it was like triangles, like loads and stuff like that, guillotine. And I went like the second time, the triangles less, and like the other day I went up, we didn't manage triangles, so I was like, oh, definitely getting a little bit better. And then Cowbomb, obviously there's 2 big heavyweights there, Tom Aspinall and Mindy is called, like he's absolute giant, he's like 6'10", and then obviously Till and that train. So when I first went down, it was when lockdown was really bad. My friend, the 8 weeks when nothing was open, my friend Justin, like his coach down there, obviously the pros and that was still there to train. So went down there and they were nice enough to let us train with them. Got to know them, but like they train so hard down there, like honestly, like a fight every day, like just wrestling non-stop, like the warm-up, you do the warm-up, and then they're like, right, now we'll spar, and you're like, then spar, then they'll do techniques, then you finished all that, then they're like, right, now it's like, I don't know, 100 sit-ups, push-ups, and then you're like, honestly, dying at the end. Then they'll probably drill something else after that. And then obviously Mint sparring with Tom, he's like, well, obviously everyone's saying how good his striking is. It's good to spar with him because he's like definitely spars different than most big lads. He's like so light on his feet, technical. So amongst the 3, Jake, Phil, Paul, and him, I just try to like steal a few things off them. Like it's good to talk to them as well because obviously, especially Tom, like he's been where I've been, like struggling for fights and that.
Yeah.
So it was talking to us, and he was like, "Oh look, I was the same, mate. You've just got to stay ready, keep training, then like your time will come." And then even talking to like, because a few things now I've said I'll fight for like normally, just have a fight. Like I'm not even bothered about wages, I'll just fight. And it's still been hard to get matched up. And then like Till was like, "Oh, my first 9 fights, I didn't even get paid." You know what I mean? It's just something you've got to do. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not bothered about that. You know, like I literally just I love training. I love fighting. It's just a bit frustrating when you can't get them. But both of the shows start to begin now, so I've got more chance of like getting an opponent and getting some matches in.
Because that was something I was meaning to talk to you about as well. Because I was talking to your coach Andrew Fisher. I was talking to him before Cage Steel, and that was what he was saying. He was saying that Tom Aspinall has linked like kind of the start of his pro career to yourself. Does having someone like that, and like Darren Till as well, who have been through the kind of same fire you've been through, the struggling to get matchups, does that help you keep positively motivated? Because that was something that Andrew said as well. He said that your kind of mentality, like the amount of fights you've had being cancelled, opponents pulling out, you never seem to get down about it. You just kind of keep in the same track. Does having guys like that round about you who have already set a blueprint, does that help you massively?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely good to talk to people who've had the same experiences, especially now that they're doing so well. But yeah, like I do love training. Like I love getting better. Like I'll go there and like I'm so frustrated when I kind of get something, so I'm always asking questions like, "What do I do here? What do I do there?" Like Phil gets us in so many bad positions sometimes where I'm like, "Great, Fisher, what should we do in here?" Then Phil's like, "Oh, I was learning how to beat me." So when fights fell through, like Phil's always been in camps, Paul has, so I've always get to do a lot of training with them. So I've constantly been getting good, hard training for myself. Probably just as hard if I was fighting. And like I feel like I've improved loads, and that would be like the thing now. I've improved so much, like people can't see. But then when I get in there, obviously I'm going to be like so confident and ready now because like I've had like a year of just solid training with these absolute beasts.
Because I was having a conversation with Ross Cooper from Scottish Hit Squad as
Yeah.
well, and he was telling me that he thinks he's having kind of similar issues to you with opponents pulling out, and he was linking it to the gym that he trains at. So obviously people go on and they do a bit of Instagram stalking and see that he's training. He's also training with like Paul, Phil. Do you feel that the level of training partners that you have to the point you are in your career, because you're still very early, you're only 25, which for a heavyweight, you're basically like 18 in like lightweight world. So do you feel that plays a negative impact on people actually taking the fights with you because they see the level of guys you're training with?
Yeah, I do. I do think that sometimes, like, I would be lying if I was saying when I first started fighting when I was like 19, 20, you do look at people's Instagram and you see them training with these beasts and you're like, oh God. Then like, I've got on a bit now, you know, like, doesn't matter who you train with, if they're not putting the work in. Like, you could be like training like unknown people. If you're putting the work in, you're putting the work in. But yeah, I definitely think sometimes that happens. And with a lot of heavyweights, there's obviously not many of us. And then the half decent ones, they'll have a few fights and they sign the bigger shows straight away.
Yeah.
Then like the local level ones, I understand like the situation with them because it's like if I beat somebody, they've been beat or somebody's 2-0, and if they beat me, they've beat somebody 2-0. So I do understand like why them are like being funny, but it's frustrating when somebody says, "Oh, I'm not fighting him because he's not like ranked or like high enough or this and that," but then they'll end up taking a fight with somebody who's like a journeyman anyway.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating, but it is what it is. Like I got a bit down because like need to respect my opponents I've had, but like I want to be fighting like good people, like people whose dreams like mine, like just to fight and stuff like that, like the best I can do with people. So, but like it'll come. I've just got to basically take whatever I can get over the next couple of months, next couple of years, whatever. Get that record because you only need heavyweight like between 5 and 10 fights, and the bigger shows are there for you. So it's just getting better and just getting ready for when it does happen.
Because we've seen that with Cyril Gane that's in the UFC. I think he went into the UFC with like a 5-0 record. And now he's had a couple of fights in there. He's looking like he's 1 or 2 fights away for the title. So it's, in that sense, I do kind of understand why people are a bit more picky with who they fight. But at the end of the day, it's mixed martial arts. It's like the best guys against the best guys. And even at the regional scene, you want to see that. You want to see the best regional guys against the best regional guys. It's a bit, sometimes it just seems unfair that there's guys out there who don't have the best record and they're always expected to take like the toughest fights, and that diminishes their record as well. It's like you want to see the best guys fight the best guys. Doesn't matter what the show is.
I understand like pros when they're first coming through and like the bit of prospect, like obviously do sort of pick your fights and stuff like that. But I was talking to Jan after my fight, and he said like they can't really get people at his level. They're always giving them like up and comers and that, like just throwing them in there. Like I spoke to him after and that, and like he likes fighting, so he was like, I'll never stop doing it. Like I do. Like he was trying to like people message him like a day's notice to fight in like Holland, and he's like checks the opponent. And he was saying, I just say to myself, what's the point of even checking the opponent? I'll just tackle no matter what. So like he must just like fighting.
Yeah.
But he was like the opposite end. They can't have people his like level without because they'll not take the fights with him. So like I think now people just because they know his game, these people who are struggling to get matched like myself or other people, like they'll just offer him off as well. But it's a hard thing at the minute because some of these like journeymen obviously fight and they like want a little bit of money as well. Yeah. Obviously there's no money at the moment with the way the shows are. So like they're obviously not like loads will have not trained through lockdown, and the ones who do, they'll be like offered like I don't know couple hundred quid, and they're like we're not fighting for that. So it is tricky, but I do understand people's situation. Everyone's different. Like some people like just like doing it. Some people like it for the money. So it is hard. Like it is hard for people at the moment.
We'll take a big step back. And what was it that got you first interested in MMA out of all the sports in the world?
Right. Wasn't like super sporting in school. I think I started playing football when I was like 13. Not like every young lad plays football, join like a team. And then my 2 best friends, I went all the way through school with, we were training at the local gym. And obviously, the way I was at mine, my mum was always like, "Why don't you try it?" and stuff like that. And I was always like, "Didn't I?" Like, I'd done a little bit of boxing when I was younger, but like 12, 13, maybe a couple of months now. Like, everybody you see him guns in the boxing gym, hits a few bags. I did a little bit of boxing, but I would never say out major. And then, like, my friends were going there, so I just started when I was like, I think I tried when I was like 14, 15. Did a few kickboxing classes. And enjoyed it, like the crack, like something different. And there was a jiu-jitsu gym as well there. So I started like putting on the gig and doing that, and then started enjoying it. I was only training like 3-4 times a week at first. And as I got a little bit older, kept it up. And then like I think I was 15 when I started, and I think I took my first fight when I was 19. And I don't know, just when you're training, you just want to like have a little test of yourself, like off the fight. Yeah. I was like just kickboxing, like K1, semi-pro, like shins on, gloves. And then I did my first fight and I like really enjoyed it. And then just kept training from that. Then ever since I was like in college, training all the time. And then like just the more and more I trained, the more I enjoyed it, the more I thought like, oh, I could maybe do something like this. A lot of my friends as well, like were doing really well and stuff like that. Like my friend Justin, he joined like, I think I was 15, 16, he'll be about 14, he's a couple of years younger than me. And he was so driven as well. There's a few lads at the gym who were like wanting to be fighters, so you can like see like them are doing so well. And yeah, then I just took a few kickboxing fights, had a few MMA fights, and like realised like, oh, I'm half decent at this. And then just I'm where I'm at now, where like I can't see myself doing anything else. I love it. Like I train like twice a day, every day. Like I said, I'm like not even like one of these people who's super competitive. I like getting beat sometimes as well and like figuring things out. But I just like sometimes can't switch off through it as well. Like it's all I think about sometimes. I go away training. But no, I do. I love it. I think a lot of people as well have like maybe a different mindset of what MMA gyms will be like. A lot will think like they're just all like people who don't watch the sport think it's still like a bit of like a fug thing to do and like stuff like that. And like it'll be all just like big lads, baldy. But when you get in there, like some of the nicest people you meet are in the gym. Like obviously Phil is absolute animal. He's like such a nice, well-spoken man. Like loads at the gym, even people who would think that maybe look at them and think, oh, they're so nice. Everyone when I went to Fishers was so inviting. And I'd come from a different gym and like be a bit like intimidating. Like you don't know how they're gonna act and that. And they were all like super sound with us, give us hard rolls, super nice after, like, oh, you're doing well, this and that. So like you make just friends for it. I would recommend anybody to try it, to give it a try.
Because that's something that I noticed, especially about Brazilian jiu-jitsu gyms. Like you see guys on the mat and like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu and like a jiu-jitsu gym, and see if you were to see them in a pub, you wouldn't think anything of them. They're always like the quietest guy sitting in the corner, nursing a Copperberg, but could fold you like a deck chair. It's terrifying, and I think it's an extremely humbling experience as well that I feel everyone needs to kind of experience at some point. Because you had a very active amateur record as well. You were 6-0 and you had 1 draw as an amateur, and now you're 2-0 as a professional. What's been the biggest differences between amateur MMA and professional MMA for you?
Well, obviously the longer rounds, like I went the distance jet in pro, so like it was 15 minutes. I went the distance once, so obviously the draw, I went the distance through freeze. That was hard. But when I was first went Fishers, obviously I was getting ready for a pro fight, and we're doing the rounds. It was like 3-5s. Like anybody who does them, the first ones you do, you're like, Jesus, never knew 5 minutes could be this long. And obviously the more and more you do, the more you get used to them. It's probably a better pace as well, because like some of these amateur fights, obviously 3-3s, you just can't hell for leather.
Yeah,
just swing it. But like obviously the 3-5s, the more fights you get, the more experienced guys like take the time, they like set things up, beat people and that. So I think that's more better for my style. I definitely think I'm a bit like more technical than some of the heavyweights. Like I like to move about and that, like not just big wild bombs. So I definitely think the 3-5s is like more custom to me.
Do you have any like pre-fight traditions or superstitions that you like to do before fights?
No, not really. I know like a few people have got things to do and that, but it's never bothered me like what music plays or anything like that. I like to be honest, I don't mind as much now, but first I never used to like all this walkout malarkey and all that. I just like being in there. Like when the cage shuts, it feels like different. But walking in, I always remember I was like, the first few fights, I was like, I had to walk, like step on the stage, walk along, I'm like, I trip over here or something, and I fall over these steps. And like, that was always in my mind walking out. But now Nah, nothing like that. Nothing like that. I just like to warm up, move about, and get in there. Nah, nothing really. Just is what it is.
See, before a fight, like fight day, what does that look like for Michael Parkin? Because I know everyone kind of has a different fight day. What does yours look like? In the lead up?
Yeah, I usually, no matter who I'm fighting, I usually do like have I wouldn't say a crap night's sleep, but you wake up a bit earlier than that. It's more like excited nerves and stuff like that. So I was in your mind, like I was dreaming about the fights. I've always put myself in like weird situations, like stuff that'll never happen, like weird combos, like spinning 360 kicks and all this in my dreams and that. And I'm like, great. Wake up in the morning, like to get showered and that, chill. Because obviously, depends why you're fighting at, but obviously, like them Sheffield, where I leave. I think I wasn't fighting till 9, so I didn't want to leave till about 4. So chill, but it's more like sitting about. It's just you want to be there. Do you know what I mean? The days are so long. So my friend who was training us down, I rang him and says about 2 o'clock, and he was like, "I'll pick you up." Because it's just like you can't switch off. And then a little drive out. My friends were actually all watching the fight. Went round there, saw them for a little bit on the Saturday, and then just travelled down. But just the waiting. The waiting's a hard part. Like I've always been on late as well. Like some of the fights I haven't fought like 11 and that, and it's like such a long day, especially when you're up like early in the morning. Like just say if you got up at 8 or 9, travelling somewhere, then waiting, usually knackered by the time you fight. So days are just long days. It's better in normal times because obviously at the shows I watch other people fights, so I can sit and basically watch them all. But obviously this one you weren't allowed in till you fought. So like I think maybe my friend just we bought like a stream of it and just watched it in the car to pass some time because it was like it was so cold. And watched the stream of the fights, and then that was it really. Then got warmed up. I didn't warm up too early for that because obviously we've been outside and that's a bit cold. So I think I warmed up a little bit like less than usual, like jumpers on, maybe did just a bit on the pads rather than like kill myself because obviously when you're cooling down you're gonna be freezing.
Yeah, that makes sense, to be fair. And how did you find that, not being able to kind of watch the fights before? Because obviously Robbie Brown, he was making his pro debut on Saturday. Is that usually something you would do? You would go and you would watch and kind of cheer Robbie on?
Yeah, definitely. If obviously if you're like close to the fight, obviously sometimes you've got to stick behind and get warmed up yourself. But I definitely watched Robbie and that. He did mint. Like I said, we bought the stream, managed to see his fight, and he looked amazing. Like obviously his first pro fight, and like he started 6 weeks ago. He did his rounds, the 5 minutes, and I think you could tell it was tough. He was like 5 minutes different, but his improvement was mint every week. Like his rounds where he would struggle a bit, then like get better. Then by the last rounds, he was like killing it. And then obviously watched his fight, saw massive improvements. I thought he looked amazing. He did. Like his grappling and everything just looked mint.
Oh, he did. He looked superb on Saturday. It was really impressive to see. See, when it comes up to fight week, do you ever look at guys like Robbie and guys like Callum Eleanor who have to cut weight and just kind of think, thank God I'm a heavyweight?
Well, I usually sit a little bit over the heavyweight limit, but like maybe 2 or 3 kilo. But I don't have to like cut as like them do. I just diet them.
Yeah.
But I always like wine, like me mate James Hendon. He cuts a bit. I'm always winding up saying I cut just as much as you, man. And they get fuming. The light lads, they get fuming. I'm like, I cut just as much as any of you here. But they didn't like it. But now, like on them while we're in dying. And I was like, oh, enjoy the cut, lads. And I think I just like missed me breakfast. So like them while good. I probably could have ate, to be honest. I think I was like weighed at like 119, so I was like a kilo light. But yeah, the only difference for me is I like I maybe cut my portions down a little bit on the week.
Yeah.
And the day before I'll have my tea a bit earlier, and that's it. By then we're like all dying, starving, hot baths and that. But I fought at light heavy once at the kickboxing show. And I was about 98 kilo. I used to what about I get like 93. And I got about 96, that hot bath about 2.5 kilo. Worst experience of my life. Ever since that, I was like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Because you're like a natural heavyweight as well, so that must be very difficult to cut to light heavyweight.
Yeah, well, I wasn't this big when I was like 19. I was like 100 kilo wanting about. And I weighed in a few times at 98. My coach was like, "Oh, we'll take a fight a bit lighter. We'll try like a light heavyweight." Oh, horrible! I was in the bath for ages. Weight wouldn't come off. Panicking, horrible. But like. You say these light lads, they just absolutely get it and like not bothered at all. They just cut off so much weight, like they're dying and never complain. But I was a proper whinge bag, me. It's like, how long's left? And I was like, oh, 5 minutes. I was like, show us the timer.
Because did the difference in weight classes at Cage Steel, did that impact you much? Because they had like a super heavyweight division and a cruiserweight division, didn't they?
Yeah, I think heavyweight. I think the super was just. Oh, I don't know. Actually, I was heavyweight. I weighed at like 120.2, like 266 pounds. So that's what I weighed at anyway.
Yeah.
The cruiserweight's at like what did they say? 220 maybe, might be like 100 kilos, something like that.
I think it was 225 maybe.
Yeah, but that Jan, I was talking to him. He said like that would be perfect for him because he's about 108 kilo.
Yeah.
So obviously some of the guys like what about like 108, 105, they're definitely on the lighter side of heavyweight, but then some of them just can't make the light heavy.
Yeah.
So I think cruiserweight is good, but like the only thing with that is there's not enough heavyweights at the minute anywhere. So like say if the UFC made a cruiserweight division, there's none already. So then they're like cutting the division in half, and there's not many of them anywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially for the heavier divisions. I completely back that. But I felt for the lighter dudes, like having much more weight classes.
Yeah,
that looks really good. I really like the way Cage Steel were running it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, definitely. Like boxing is obviously like there's different weight classes for like every 2 pounds or something.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot more fighters, but yeah, they probably definitely should try and start doing that now because loads more people in MMA now as well.
So Michael, thanks very much for coming on. We really appreciate your time, and I'm trying to be very cautious with time today because I understand you've got work soon as well. Yeah. So is there any social medias you want to shout out just before we wrap it up?
No, that's fine. Everything was fine. Cheers.
No worries. And if any of you want to catch Michael's last fight, it'll be on YouTube soon, I'd imagine. Or if you'd bought the pay-per-view for Saturday's Cage Steel 25, it will be on demand, so you can catch his fights there. See you later, guys.
Cheers, mate.